I've had cancer. I've survived that for 20-something years now. So that was something that came into my life. I've been divorced. So that was a tough scenario to go through. Life happens, and it teaches you to be resilient. It teaches you what's important. It teaches you who your friends are. It teaches you how to put one foot in front of the other when you don't think you can.
From basketball courts to apartment communities, Char McCurdy built success through unstoppable drive. When cancer challenged her, optimism prevailed, just as it had on her family's Arkansas farm. Now, as a multifamily leader, she rises at 3:30 a.m., interviews every manager personally, and seeks the servant's heart in everyone she hires. Balancing fierce competitiveness with unwavering priorities of faith and family, Char's philosophy remains simple. Success isn't personal achievement, but helping everyone around you flourish too.
Winning is not always the most important thing. I've matured at some point, and I'm able to step back and see, okay, it's not about me, it's not about being first, it's more about the success of this individual or the company or the property or whatever it is, instead of just trying to outperform in whatever area it is.
Do you love to win or do you hate to lose?
That's a trick.
Char, welcome to the show.
Hi, excellent. Nice to be here.
You are the last podcast that we're recording in Dallas.
Awesome. Best for last, I hope.
Best for last,
Hopefully
exactly.
we knock it out of the park.
We knock it out. Yeah, it's Friday. For everybody listening, it's like Friday, 6 p.m., and we scheduled this like super last minute. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I'm really glad it did.
I'm glad it did too. Fun.
Our mutual friend Ian introduced us.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian and I've been friends for probably 15, 20 years, so long time. Great guy.
Great guy, indeed. Great. I'd love to start with your early years.
Okay.
So maybe a little bit about your upbringing, your background, where you grew up, and we can go from there.
Okay. I grew up in Arkansas, and so I lived there from the time I was till I was almost 16 years old, and then my parents moved to Oklahoma, and I graduated high school there, and then I went to college in Memphis, Tennessee with a basketball scholarship. So yeah, I grew up in Arkansas, and that's really home for me. When people ask, that's what I consider home.
I think I saw on your LinkedIn profile you had basketball. You played basketball or something when?
I'm a has-been way long time ago. A long time ago. Oh,
that's great.
I still love sports, though.
That's awesome. So tell me, Arkansas?
Yes.
What was growing up like in Arkansas?
I lived in a very small town. Almost feel like it was like a picturesque country. You know, everyone knew everyone. I had the same friends my whole life until I moved, and just came home way after dark every night. Just no fears. Just a different childhood than kids have today, for sure. But it was a blessing. Beautiful. Arkansas is beautiful.
I've never been to Arkansas.
You should go. It's absolutely beautiful. Mountains and trees and lakes and very friendly people. It's beautiful.
What did your parents do growing up?
Well, my dad was a salesman, and he traveled all over the U.S. selling.
Traveling salesman,
yes.
kind of like me now. I'm a traveling salesman.
Kind of.
Did he have an RV or?
No, he didn't. He was a salesman, and my mom was a homemaker. So,
what is it like to have a dad that's traveling all the time? Not an RV, obviously, but what, like, how many days a week? And
I don't know. It was always different. Some days he was home all the time, and then sometimes he was gone for long periods. So, my mom was, and we had a farm, so we had animals and gardens, and I think that's where I got a work ethic, actually, because we all worked very hard, taking care of everything with him being gone all the time.
And the farm, what did you grow?
Watermelon, cantaloupe, strawberries, potatoes, corn, zucchini. We had everything.
And you would sell it, or it was just for?
No, just for us.
Just for it.
Yeah, just for us.
It's crazy how many people I have brought up that they grew up on a farm and they've connected that to work ethic.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to, when I have a wife and kids, I'm going to move on a farm just to instill that work ethic.
I do think there's something to it, truthfully, because most kids in the generation that's coming up right now don't have that same work ethic or the same expectations of work. that maybe my generation did. And it's healthier for you too. So we're planting a garden at our house now. So I said, I worked so hard as a child. I was like, I will never do that again. But now as I've gotten older, I'm like, okay, it's really healthy. It's the right thing to do. So we're planting a garden.
So what did you have to do as a kid on the farm?
Everything from planting to harvesting to taking care of the animals every day. And then I mentioned earlier, I was very involved in sports. So between school and cutting grass, I meant everything. So there were no boys at home when I was there. It was me. And so I cut the grass, or I had a younger sister. We cut the grass. We took care of everything.
No boys, as in you do?
I had older siblings, but they were grown by the time I came along.
What is the age gap between all of you?
It's a lot. Let me think about that. My oldest sibling is 68. So there's probably, 15, 20 years between all of us. I have a weird story. I probably don't put this on anything, but my sister, my mom were in the hospital having babies at the same time. That's how my mom had children late in life, and my sister, obviously. So they were in the hospital 3 days apart.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. My dad went from one room down to the other because you stayed in the hospital a long time back in the day when they had kids. They didn't ship you home the next day like they do now. But
how old was your mom then?
She was in her 40s, but yeah.
Wow. And you're the second youngest?
Yeah.
What did it feel like then with your older brothers? Did they feel like parents in some ways?
Yes, and they definitely took that role too.
They did?
Yeah, for sure. When the ones that were at home when I was there, what I can remember, definitely a parenting role.
How did their parenting differ than your actual parents?
Maybe because I was so far down the line, my mom was not as strong a disciplinarian with me as she had been with them. And so maybe they filled in the gaps a little bit. She was probably tired by the time I came along. She's like, she's going to live. She'll be fine.
Yeah.
So they kind of took on that role a little bit, probably.
Okay. So growing up then, it sounds like your siblings had probably a different upbringing in some ways
for sure.
of the age gap. So your upbringing your parents weren't super strict?
I guess it depends on what you talk about. Some things, my dad, I would have been 30 before I went on my first date if it were up to him, probably. But my mom was more lenient with everything, probably. But
Your dad was super protective.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
but he traveled a lot, so he was gone. So mom made the decisions most days, But when he was there, he was definitely strict.
What did he sell?
Encyclopedia Britannica. Do you even know what that is?
Of course I do.
Okay.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I still have a set just for memorabilia, I guess. And every time I've moved, I was like, oh, there's 30 boxes of those. Why do I keep them?
Do you have like PTSD from seeing it? That's so cool. So so why did you need to travel to sell them? Because you go door to door?
Yeah. Well, they would get leads and call upon them or whatever, or he would do trade shows like the fairs or whatever, different things.
So you never saw his, I guess, it sounds like you credited your work ethic to growing up on a farm, but you never really saw him work. Is that fair to say? Because he was traveling when he was working?
No, I definitely would say I was part of it. At one point, he had a magazine company, and I worked in the magazine company where you would call like down the phone book when they had phone books and do like solicitation selling magazines. I was probably 12. And so just selling magazines on the phone.
Did you volunteer to do that?
I don't remember if I was voluntold or volunteered. I don't remember, but I was there.
Okay. Yeah. That's really cool. What was your relationship like with your sister since she was closer in age?
We have had a great relationship. One of my sisters is passed now, but the rest of my siblings, we've always been close. So yeah, very fortunate.
Oh, that's awesome.
We're all very different and unique, but we all get along.
In what ways are you different?
Well, one of my sisters was a cowgirl. She was Arkansas bareback bronc riding champion when she was 14 and was a nurse, baled her own hay, took care of animals, horses, and outside doing that all the time. And then another one of my sisters lives up in the Ozark Mountains in Arkansas still, and she works for the state of Arkansas, and she's the baby. But we're all just very unique, different career goals and just different ambitions and what's important to us. It's all different.
How many siblings are there totally?
5. There's 5.
5 of you guys. Okay. So growing up in Arkansas, how big was your school? Was it like
so small?
Small. And you lived in a small town?
Yes. I don't know what the population was. I don't remember, but yeah, small.
And this is middle school, high school?
Well, I went to pre-K all the way to 10th grade in Arkansas. And then my parents divorced, and both of them were from Ada, Oklahoma, and they both moved back to Ada, Oklahoma. So I graduated high school from Ada, Oklahoma. And then the day I graduated, I left for Tennessee for a basketball scholarship.
They divorced at what age?
I was 15, almost 16. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember how that impacted you at all?
No, I don't know. I'm probably not comfortable talking about all that.
Where did you get your basketball scholarship?
Christian Brothers College. It was a small Catholic college in Memphis, Tennessee. Had no intentions of playing at that point, but my dad had asked me to come try out with the coach, and I did, and they offered me a scholarship on the spot. It was kind of a weird scenario. I played for about a year before I started working in the apartment industry. So,
how did you get into the apartment industry?
I was laying out by the pool, and the manager came up and said, I think you can lease apartments. Said, I guess I was 18 and kind of cute at the time. I don't know. But anyway, she thought I could sell, I guess. And so I started to work at an apartment community called Greenbrook Bend in Memphis, Tennessee. It was 1,031 units, and it was in Playboy as one of the hot spots to live in America. And part of my initial responsibility was to go get people out of the hot tub every morning when I got to work. And there was a pub on the property, and so we had to make sure the pub was all cleaned up and out before I even opened the office. So it was an experience for sure.
So you kind of fell in, and then you never planned on staying?
No, I had no intentions of staying in the industry. I guess a lot of people do that, right? You've probably heard that story many times.
Many times. I don't think I've ever heard a story where somebody is like, yeah, I sought out to be in the industry and I'm going to stay in it.
This is what I'm going to do when I grow up scenario. Yeah, no. Well, I think with maybe the degrees and stuff that are being offered now, people will grow up and say, that's what I want to do. But yeah, back for my generation and right now, it wasn't a career choice for sure.
How did you go from, so you started as a leasing agent.
I did.
And there was no intention to stay in the industry, but you were just doing
I kind of just got it getting promoted, and I was a manager like within a year. And so a small town girl from Arkansas, that was big to be a manager of an apartment community, and I thought I had made it at the time. Free rent and working for a large corporation, and it was success for me at the time. And so I've just continued working hard and met a lot of really great people in this industry that have led me and directed me and groomed me and molded me, I guess. And so I've been very fortunate.
Anybody that comes to mind specifically?
Ron Shelton's probably always my go-to. I don't know if you've met him or talked to him yet, but he's kind of an icon in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. And he's been involved in TAAs and NAAs. He's been the NAA chairman before. And he was my boss at Aimco when I was a regional manager. And my favorite Ron story that I've told several times, I'll try to give you the Cliff Note version, but I was supposed to go to Amarillo, Texas to take over 5 apartment communities. So I booked my plane with the travel agent and my flight and said, I'm going to be out here like 3-4 days at least to take over these 5 communities. And I got back to my desk, and a short time later, the flight was like to go down and come back the same day. So I was like, that isn't going to happen. So I traipsed back downstairs, talked to the travel agent. She's like, you need to go talk to Ron. So I went into Ron's office. I was like, what are you doing? I can't take over 5 properties in one day. He said, you know what day it is, right? And I'm like, no. He's like, it's Halloween. You're going to go down. You're going to come back. And you're going to be home in time to take your kids trick-or-treating. And don't be late and don't argue with me again. So I'm like, okay, that's my priority. I get it. And so from that point forward, I personally always knew family first. And he was right.
We have a bunch of folks that listen who are leasing agents or regional managers. And in some cases, people are comfortable being where they're at. But in many cases, people want to grow and climb and eventually, be a marketing leader of some sort. What would you recommend from like the leasing agent to the regional manager role, or even beyond that, has helped you grow in your career and gone through from, leasing agent to the president of a management company?
Yeah, I would say all the education that you can get and be very, very involved with the apartment association, because you're always in the know. You know what's happening legislatively. You know what's happening with technology. If you're active in the association, you're going to learn those things, and it's going to help you stand out. So that's probably my first advice, but you can never know it all. Just constantly learning, constantly having mentors in your life who are willing to share good and bad, and being receptive to that good and bad. Sometimes it's not easy to hear that, you're not doing something great. So use it as an opportunity. And I'm so competitive. That's much easier for me to say than do, and to walk the walk. But I would say that's something that you have to do. You have to learn from your mistakes, and you have to go, okay, I'm going to come out on the other side better now because I've heard what I can improve upon.
Why are you so competitive?
I think it's from a childhood with the sports and everything. It's just been a part of my life, but I am super competitive. I want to be number one no matter what. I want my company to be number one. I want the communities to soar, and I want everyone else to be successful that I surround myself with. So
this has been a thing you've always had?
Yes. It's just ingrained. Yeah. To a fault sometimes, but sometimes it's a positive trait as well. It can go either way.
Where is it to a fault?
I guess I would say, when winning is not always the most important thing, I've matured at some point, and I'm able to step back and see, okay, it's not about me. It's not about being first. It's more about the success of this individual or the company or the property or whatever it is, instead of just trying to outperform in whatever area it is. But it took a lot of years to get to be able to step back to see that, instead of trying to compete with everyone.
So in the early years when you were a leasing agent, you wanted to be the best leasing agent?
Absolutely. Always. If my numbers weren't at the top, I wasn't happy. If I didn't have the most leases, the most move-ins, the biggest commission, whatever it was, I never was satisfied.
I'm going to ask you a question that I think is an interesting one. Do you love to win, or do you hate to lose?
That's a trick. It's probably the hating to lose, if I'm being honest with you. Oh, like I said, it's taken life for me to appreciate the losing and to appreciate the tough times and the, battles that have come into my world. But when I was young, I probably didn't recognize that at the time, but now I do. And what God closes a door, he opens a window for me. So I'm always looking for the window if something happens that way.
When you say battles, what do you mean?
I've had cancer. I've survived that for 20-something years now. So that was something that came into my life. I've been divorced. So that was a tough scenario to go through, especially having seen my parents go through it. I was adamant it was never happening to me. So life happens, and it teaches you to be resilient. It teaches you what's important, teaches you who your friends are, teaches you how to put one foot in front of the other when you don't think you can.
How do you deal with challenging periods in your life?
How do I deal with what in my life?
Challenging periods in your life. How do you process like stress and just difficult times?
I dive into work typically, truthfully. I probably go from giving 110 to 150, but I also have a lot of great friends in my life at this point, and I have resources, I would say, if something happens. I know who to call to talk me off the ledge or to put me back in check. Or I also have a strong faith, and I also have a lot of things that I do to relieve stress. Like I love working out now. I'm kind of addicted. And so I wish I would have started sooner, but I love it.
When did you start?
Probably about 2 years ago, just consistently. I played sports, but to really work out and to, at some point, my husband was like, you've got to quit playing softball. You're past the stage where you need to be playing softball. Go find something else. And so I didn't do anything for a period of probably like 8 years. And then I've found the gym now. So that helps a lot too.
That's awesome. And so you would play, you played softball up until a couple of years ago.
Probably about 5-6 years ago. And I slid into home plate and came home with my knee all gashed open. And he said, you're in your 50s. I think sliding into home plate is a thing of the past. You need to stop. Party's over. And then he said, you messed up a perfectly great pair of legs too.
Wow. Because you wanted to win.
Yes.
But you didn't want to lose.
Yeah.
One of them.
I'm competitive.
You're competitive. Yes. Wow. And so what's your workout routine like?
I have a trainer 2 days a week, and I go at 5 a.m. to see her. And people are always astonished that I get up at 3:30 in the morning, but I'm like, I can fit it in then. And so that's when it's going to happen. And it allows me to get to work earlier, and I get more done in my day. And then I typically work out on my own another 2 or 3 times a week.
Wait, if you get up at 3:30 a.m., what time are you sleeping?
I go to bed about 9:30.
Okay, so 6 hours?
Yeah, it's plenty.
It's plenty for you?
Yeah.
It's always been?
No, I've just decided it's plenty. I think it's a mind over your body. And so I don't think we all need 8 hours of sleep. I think that we program ourselves to need 8 hours of sleep. But I think most millionaires I've read about recently, they get on 4 or 5 hours so they can get more done. And so I'm bound to determine I'm going to get more done.
Do you feel better if you sleep 8 hours?
No. I'm full of energy. I don't get tired until my head hits the pillow, and then I'm out.
And then you're out.
Yeah. Okay. But until that point, I'm going.
Post 5 a.m. workout, what does your daily routine look like?
Well, I have 2 young grandkids that are with me a lot and spend a lot of time. So I take them to school those other mornings probably, or if I'm not traveling. Then work throughout the week, obviously, and spend time with them on the weekend as much as possible.
Do you ever switch off on the evenings and weekends?
On what?
Work-wise.
And work on the weekends versus the weekdays?
Are you able to switch off, mentally?
I don't like switching off, even if I'm on vacation. I will get up before everyone else and knock out my emails so I stay caught up, and then I go enjoy the day with my family or friends or whatever. But yeah, I think I have a really good balance at this point. I have a strong girl group, and we travel together, and we do a lot of fun things together. And then my husband and my kids and grandkids, we all travel. So we have a good time. We have a good life. We're blessed.
So I want to go back to, where was the first job?
Memphis, Tennessee, at an apartment community called Greenbrook Bend. It's the 1,031 units that I was explaining earlier. That had a pub and everything. So that was my first job.
And then what transpired next? What was the next job?
I went from there to the assistant manager at that property, and then to the manager of another one called the Sycamore. And that property, a story about it, I'd never heard of Jimmy Buffett at the time. And so they came into my office. I'd been a manager for about a week, and the whole, a big group of residents came in, and they were like, "Are you getting ready for Buffett week?" And I'm like, "Buffet?" And they were like, "No, Buffett." I'm like, "Okay, I don't know what that is. I'm 19 years old. I have no clue what Buffett is." They were like, "No, we have a Margaritaville day. We have a captain's ball. You rent a Greyhound. We all ride over on the bus to go to Mud Island to the concert together. We do everything together that week." Like, okay. So I planned my first Buffett week and became a Jimmy Buffett fan my whole life, basically. And my kids are Buffett fans, so Jimmy Buffett became part of our world. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm trying to understand. It sounds like you fell into multifamily as most people do. You wanted to be the best in every role you were in. Is that just the recipe to getting to where you are? Did you have like some sort of like vision of like, oh, I want to be the president of a company, or I want to be the CEO of a company? Was that part of the roadmap, or was the rule book just like, I'm going to be the best in every role possible?
No, I think I've always wanted to move up. I didn't know what moving up meant always. So from leasing consultant to the assistant to the manager, that was the normal progression when I was on site, I guess. And so I wanted that normal progression. And then I wanted to be, and I was an area manager next with Mid-America. And so overseeing multiple properties, but still running one myself. And so then from there, I went to the regional role with Aimco. And I think it's hard work, just consistently learning, being receptive to learning, and having good mentors and people who have a little faith in you. I've been fortunate. And then I kept pushing myself. Like I said, I never settled. I always wanted what was next. So when I became a regional, I'm like, okay, I want to be a VP. And when I got the VP role, I wanted to be the president. So, and next I'm going to be the chief operating officer. So it just got to happen.
The reality is there's really no milestone that I'm going to hit and be like, okay, great, I'm done.
Yeah, me neither.
I've made it.
Yeah, me neither.
It's, even if you, no matter who you are sitting somewhere and you're like, once I get there, then I will be X.
Yes.
That's just like not true. So knowing that, do you just enjoy climbing and you focus on the journey of climbing and improving and getting better?
I do. And I think I do that with everything, even like with working out. So I've like, okay, I've lost X number of pounds. And now I'm like, okay, now I got to tone all this up. So I'm going to have this done by this date. And then I'm going to, after that, this is the next thing I'm working on and whatever. So I do that with everything, I think. And I'm never going to settle with anything. It's never something I'm just satisfied. And so, okay, I'm going to stop here. I don't have that in me.
Are you are you an optimistic person?
Absolutely.
You are.
My glass is very half full.
Glass is has that changed over time?
Nope, I've always been that person. And I think that's what got me through my cancer battle, or because I just knew I was going to be okay. You know, and whatever okay was, I knew I was going to be all right. Or just having the ability to see the forest for the trees, I guess, as people would say. I've always had that ability. There's always a way to make it better, or find your way out, or to fix something. Nothing is broken forever.
When you say you knew you were going to be all right, that's what you felt in that moment?
Yeah, for sure. And I didn't know if all right would mean I was going to be healed, or if I would be in heaven, or what that looked like. But I knew I was going to be okay.
I feel like that's really tough to do.
Yeah, it didn't come overnight. I didn't get diagnosed and get that way the next day, but somewhere along the journey, I got there for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I had, again, just amazing friends and people surrounding me that just were like, it's Char, she's going to be fine. Quit worrying about her. We're not going to worry about her. And just rallied around me.
So because everybody around you was super supportive. And
yes, and positive.
And positive.
Yes. So I didn't have a choice, but I was like, okay, I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to keep moving because they're moving. And they believe in me. They believe I'm going to do it. So I'm going to do it. And a story of that is I went into the doctor just to have a checkup because my cancer had spread, because I didn't have time to go to the doctor. I was too busy at work and I just didn't take the time when I had all these symptoms. And so I got to the doctor's office after 6 months of chemo, and I had just had a PET scan to see, if it was the chemo was actually working, or just to see the progress of what we had been doing. And she came back in and she said, I don't know what you believe or who you believe in or what your God's like or whatever, but you're a miracle. And she said, when I went to look at your test today, I had no idea you would be cured. but your cancer's gone. She said, you still have the tumor of the shell, but your cancer's gone. And she said, I came in thinking I was going to plan your next regimen of medicines and what that was going to look like. And she said, I had no idea that I would be having this conversation with you. So I'm a miracle.
And it's completely gone?
Yes. It's been 20-something years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. It's a blessing.
I want to talk a little bit about like your leadership style.
Okay.
Do you have a leadership style?
I'm sure I do.
Well,
Everyone does, right?
How would you, but some people have a very specific, like they'll be like, I'm a servant leader or I'm a XYZ. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, if you were to define what you think your leadership style is, whether it's a technical term or in general, what would that be?
Yeah, no, I definitely think I leave with, people have described a servant's heart for me many times. And again, I think I said earlier, I want everyone around me to be successful. And so I'm always pushing and trying to think outside the box and trying to encourage them to be their best selves. And when I surround myself with people who have that same compassion and the same heart or whatever, it works well. I try to help people prioritize things because I wasn't always the best at doing that.
What does that mean?
Family first, take care of your health, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and work's going to be here when we get to it. Well, it's very important, and I love it, and I get excited to go to work every day still after all these years in the industry. I try to help them prioritize what's really important.
Do you feel like you would be where you are if you took that advice yourself?
Yes. Because, again, I think that's the way it's supposed to be done. And I got it, like I said, fairly early on from Ron Shelton. I'd probably been in the industry 15 years or so, maybe at the time, when he's like, no, you're going to come home. You're going to go trick-or-treating tonight. So that was probably my first, like, okay, this is all going to be there when I get to it.
Do you put more pressure on yourself than you put on others?
Absolutely. Always.
Yeah. Because I'm just thinking, I've thought a lot about this. I think, I don't know in this example or not, but just in general, I don't know if there's a specific term for it, but as humans, I feel like we tend to reflect on what we did and then give advice. But in that moment, we wouldn't have taken that advice. For example, when you get older, your advice is don't work so hard, balance, all of this. But then the question I think of is like, well, would those people have been there if they took their own advice in that moment? Because you're reflecting on where you are today, and then giving advice on what you should have done then.
I think people will say I'm still a workaholic. So I don't think that when I say prioritize, come back and get things done, but it doesn't have to be done in that moment. There's always, if something is happening with your child or with your husband or your spouse or whatever it is, go take care of that and then come back and work hard and get this done. It's always going to be there.
How would you stack rank your priorities today? Your top 5 priorities?
God and family and work is probably third. And I don't know that anything comes after that, really.
Health?
Yeah. I'm probably pretty passionate about that right now. Just rolled out a health and wellness at our company for the year, too. Every month has a theme. And so, and the Apartment Association of Greater Dallas is doing it as well, where they have a theme. And so everybody's definitely talking about health, and it's definitely important.
What is that? What is it? What do you do for your company?
Well, so this month is Heart Healthy, so we got everyone the little step counters for them to wear, and we're going to have a step contest, and whoever puts in the most from an on-site team member, a service team member, and our corporate office gets a treadmill. They get one of those that like tuck away, like under your desk or under your bed or whatever, but they get a treadmill. So we have a contest going, and then some months it's going to be mental wellness. Some days it's about self-care. Every month has a different theme. So I gave the idea to some people at the office. They've taken it, they've ran with it. And like I said, AAGD has already done it as well. I think it's kind of spreading. Even at a recent event, we all had like a group where we all went out and they were all walking together. Some of us were working out in the gym together. Like, okay, we're all going to get this in, even though we're doing work.
How do you feel your productivity has changed over the last 2 years with really bringing in like exercise and all that? Has it changed noticeably or no?
I definitely think my energy level is, again, I'm always been high energy. So if you ask my friends, they'd be like, oh, she's always bouncing off the wall. So it's the same. But I know, like I said, less sleep, and I don't even miss it. I'm like, okay, I can get more done today. I woke up at 5. On the weekends, I'm going to wake up at 5 and just get it done. So it definitely makes you feel better.
I want to talk about hiring.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've hired many of people and let go of many of people in your career. Have you boiled down like what you look for in people?
I interview everyone at our company still today. I don't know how long I can do this. We're growing kind of fast. But right now,
do you guys have?
we're 10,000 units, and we probably have 180 maybe. But I interview every community manager up and almost everyone at the corporate office. And I say other people interview them for their skill set or whatever, but it's more about interviewing people for the culture. So I spend 30 to 45 minutes and try to get to know them as a person, what makes them tick, and looking for that servant's heart, because almost everything in our industry can be taught. It's not rocket science. If I find people who care about individuals and who are team-oriented and want a collaborative environment, that we very much have a collaborative environment at our company, and who want everyone to be successful. If I can find those things in them, they're a good fit for us. So I spend my time looking for that and let everyone else look for the skill set.
How do you screen for that? Because I'm in the same boat right now. I interview everybody. And I think similar to you, it's very interesting. I almost thought about like what I do on the podcast in some ways is me trying to understand somebody.
Yes.
So as I like refine the way I'm going to do my interview with the team and new team members, I think about the same thing, but how do you actually do that? How do you actually understand somebody and know that they're not just answering for the sake of giving you an answer that you want to hear?
I don't think I'm that good. I would be like running the world if I were that good. If I had that figured out, that magic bullet, I would probably be something else. But I do think it's easy to hear where their passion is, because I think people talk about what they're passionate about when they're even in an interview. And if you can find what they're passionate about and start asking questions about that, then they're going to loosen up and be more natural. And I think that's when you get to know them and kind of know what makes them tick. And you'll find out, do they volunteer? Do they, take care of their elderly grandmother? Or do they, what is something about them that would let me know that they have that servant's heart in there? Or do they play sports, or do they like to, what makes them tick? And then when I can find in those pieces or whatever, I can hone in on it and start asking questions that will allow me to know if I think they're going to be a culture fit for us.
So you keep saying a servant's heart. Is that like your North Star when you're looking?
I use that word a lot.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, I've noticed that a couple times. Okay. So that's what you think about a lot when you're...
Yeah, for sure. Because it's all about taking care of people, whether it's your peers or your coworkers or your residents or my boss or whomever, It's about taking care of people. You have to want to do that. And whether it's taking care of them by helping them be successful or helping them get over a hurdle or whatever it is, you've got to want to take care of people.
You mentioned you asked people about what they're passionate about. What are you passionate about outside of work?
Again, I guess I go back to my priorities, I have a good time. I'm passionate about having a good time, but my priorities are probably still where our things lie with my faith and family and work and fitness. So you help me remember that. But yeah, passionate about all of it. And I've said several times, but there are so many good people in our industry in particular that I have this wide network of friends that just for anything that comes up, I can ask a question. I have resources beyond belief, personal or professional, with people that I've met in this industry. So it's a big blessing.
Do you ever feel like slowing down?
No.
Do you ever think you'll retire?
No. I might someday, but I'm not there. I can tell you that. I'm nowhere near. I think I would be bored. I don't know that I could enjoy myself. I like to travel a lot. So, if I win the lottery or something tomorrow and could travel, maybe, but I don't know. Again, I said, even when I'm on vacation, I'm checking my emails because I like it. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't see myself retiring.
So if you had $20, $50 million, whatever, in the bank, and you won the lottery, you would still work, but you would travel more?
Yeah, probably.
So
I'd buy some multifamily apartment communities myself, probably. Yeah.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah. And I just mentioned my whole family's in the industry too. So that helps. They understand. So my son, my daughter, one of my daughters, my husband, we're all in the multifamily industry. So they kind of get this world. So they're able to support and understand and appreciate it too.
Well, Char, thank you so much
my
for
pleasure.
Being on. I'm glad this was the last one. We were able to squeeze this in.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
I'm glad Ian connected us, and I appreciate you being willing to introduce us to some folks in Houston.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.